Your vitals are holding steady. Thank you, Doctor.
Dr. Yeva Solt had run the same scan 5 times, and 5 times it had given her the same impossible number. She was starting to suspect the machine, until she remembered she'd personally recalibrated it that morning. The problem wasn't the machine. The problem was standing in front of her, drinking Outpost coffee out of a cracked mug like nothing in the world was wrong. "You're doing the face again," said Ethan Cole, not looking up from his coffee. "I do not have a face." "You've got a face document. It's the one that says you're about to ask me something you already know I can't answer." Yeva set the scanner down harder than she meant to. Around her, the small medical bay of Outpost Farron 9 hummed with the low mechanical noise of a station built for function over comfort, gray walls, exposed conduit, the smell of recycled air that never quite left. She was a Thari, a species built for cold precision. Pale blue skin, dark eyes built for low light, a mind trained from birth to distrust anything that didn't fit a model. Ethan Cole did not fit any model she owned. "Your blood oxygen saturation was at 19% when we pulled you out of that wreck," she said. 19. That's not survivable. That's not conscious. That's barely tissue viable. And yet, Ethan spread his hands, palms up, still smiling. "Here I am, drinking your terrible coffee. It is not terrible, Doc. I've had motor oil that agreed with me more." 3 days earlier, Ethan Cole had been the sole crew member of a mining survey vessel that suffered a catastrophic decompression 40 kilometers from Farron 9's docking ring. The kind of decompression that, in every species Yeva had ever studied, meant instant unconsciousness followed by death in under 90 seconds. Explosive decompression didn't leave room for heroics. It left room for corpses. Ethan Cole had held his breath, calmly sealed a breach with a strip of hull tape and a prayer, and flown his crippled ship the remaining 40 kilometers to dock manually, alone, with a collapsed lung and half his blood oxygen gone. Then he'd walked off the ship under his own power and asked, politely, if anyone had aspirin. "I keep going back to the logs," Yeva said, pulling up the readout again on the wall display, numbers scrolling past in cold blue light. "Your ship recorded 0 cabin pressure for 11 minutes. 11. Do you understand what that number means?" "I understand it means I had a rough morning." "It means you should be dead, Mr. Cole." Ethan's smile faded, just slightly, into something more thoughtful. He set the mug down. "Yeah," he said. "I know." That surprised her more than the survival had. She'd expected denial or bravado, or the reflexive human tendency toward jokes she'd read about in the Coalition's cultural files. Instead, he just looked tired, in the specific way of someone who'd already had this conversation with himself several times over, alone, before anyone else got the chance to ask. "I'm not trying to be difficult," he said. "I just don't have a good answer for you." I felt my chest give out around minute 6. Everything went narrow, like looking down a tunnel. I remember thinking about my sister's kid's birthday, which, in hindsight, is a weird thing for your brain to prioritize while you're dying. And then I was docking the ship. I don't remember the middle part. I wish I did. Might make your job easier. Yeva was quiet for a moment, recalibrating not her instruments this time, but her approach. "Humans are not supposed to be able to do that," she said, more to herself than to him. "No argument here. Every model we have says the human body fails catastrophically under those conditions. Cellular death within minutes. Brain damage well before that. There is no mechanism in your physiology, according to our own Coalition Medical Archive, that explains willful, coordinated action while suffering that degree of hypoxia. Maybe your archive's wrong." The archive was compiled by 6 species with a combined 900 years of studying humans. Ethan shrugged, and there was something disarming in how little that number seemed to weigh on him. Then maybe humans are just annoying to study. Wouldn't be the first time I've heard that one. Yeva almost laughed. She caught herself before it happened, which was its own small, unfamiliar thing. She was not a species prone to almost laughing at patients who had nearly died on her table. "You should be more concerned about this," she said instead. "I was concerned about it for about 6 minutes. Back when it was actually happening," Ethan said. "Right around the part where I couldn't breathe and my vision was going tunnel-shaped. Since then, I've mostly just been concerned about your coffee situation. Priorities. Document. You are being deliberately unhelpful. I'm being exactly as helpful as I can be, which is not very because I genuinely don't know how I did it. I just wanted to not die. Turns out wanting it really hard bought me 40 kilometers. I'd love to give you a better scientific explanation, but I drive mining transports for a living. I'm not exactly equipped. Yeva studied him for a long moment. The easy posture, the tired eyes, the stubborn, unhurried calm of someone who had looked directly at his own death and simply declined the invitation. She was beginning to understand, not bravado at all. It was something closer to a species-wide refusal to accept an ending until it had already happened, and sometimes not even then. I am filing a full report on this, she said finally. Figured you might. It will draw attention. Coalition Medical Division does not often see cases like yours. There will be requests for further study, extended observation, possibly transport to a central research facility. Sounds thrilling, Ethan said, and to her genuine surprise, he didn't sound annoyed by it. Guess I'll need a bigger suitcase. You are not upset by this prospect. Would being upset change anything? No. Then no, I'm not upset. He picked his coffee back up, grimaced at the taste, and drank it anyway. Besides, if I've got to be somebody's impossible medical mystery, I could think of worse people to be stuck explaining it to. Yeva's antennae, a small, unconscious tell she hadn't yet learned to hide from this particular patient, twitched with something that was not quite professional detachment. That is an inappropriate thing to say to your attending physician, she said. Probably. Ethan agreed, entirely unbothered. I've been told I have poor judgment about when to be quiet. The medical bay was silent for a moment, filled only with the hum of machines and the soft mechanical tick of the ventilation cycling overhead. Outside the reinforced window, Farron 9's ring turned slowly against a field of unfamiliar stars, and somewhere in that turning, a coalition report was already being drafted that would follow Ethan Cole for the rest of his career. Footnoted, questioned, argued over by scientists on 6 worlds who would never quite agree on how he'd done what he did. None of that had happened yet. For now, there was just a tired human drinking bad coffee, and a doctor who had stopped, somewhere in the last 10 minutes, being quite so certain she wanted him transferred anywhere at all. Drink some water, Yeva said eventually. Actual water, not just coffee. Yes, doctor. I mean it, Mr. Cole. I know you do. He smiled again, easier this time. Thanks for pulling me out of that wreck, by the way. I don't think I said that yet. You did not. Well, there it is, then. Yeva turned back to her instruments, ostensibly to finish the report, though it would be another 20 minutes before she actually wrote a single word of it. The numbers on the screen were still impossible. The human in front of her was still, by every model she owned, something that shouldn't exist. She found, somewhat to her own surprise, that she didn't mind the mystery nearly as much as she'd expected to. The full report reached Coalition Medical Command 6 days later. It generated, by final count, over 400 follow-up questions, and one personal request, filed quietly by Dr. Yeva Solt, to remain assigned as Ethan Cole's primary physician for the duration of any future study.